Okay, there we are. Welcome, everybody, to the Roach Wiggle, February 19th, 2023. We are flying through this month. I just realized that I didn't make a stream last week, so I'm just gonna. I also realized, anybody who's gonna tune in and watch the dead stream for this, I notice I don't look at the webcam a lot. I tend to look off that way or that way, and I'm just now noticing that. Maybe I should look at the screen more too. I'm not trying to become the next big deal of live streamer or something like that, but keeping that in mind moving into the future, I'm going to try and do that. Although I am usually also doing other things when I'm streaming, so that's my defensive self there. I'm just going to go ahead and get next week's stream queued up because I forgot to do that last week, which is why this has just suddenly sprung up now. Go ahead and get that out of the way. When is a week from now? 16th. We will almost be to March. Horrifying how fast time can go by, but also nice to be closer to summer. I guess spring before that. Oops. 16. I think I set it to air at 7:05 p.m. I could edit that. Is it the 16th? Is that a week from now? Yeah. Let's change it to 7 p.m. There we go. All right. Now next week's stream is already queued up. Now let's see who has joined us this evening already. Tennyson, Exotic Wilderness, Anthony Green, Brain, Jordan S, LC, and Tarantula Jake. Hello, everybody. Exotic Wilderness says, "Hey, Kyle, I'm going to the Reptile Show Saturday. Excited to see your setup." Oh boy, Saturday is gonna be something. I'm trying not to bring a lot. I've been working a lot lately, and it's kind of getting to me, especially after I prep so much for the December show. So I'm probably not going to have a ton of stuff. And by that, I mean there will still be probably like at least 50 species of things with me, but I'm not going to have a ton of stuff. But hopefully you'll find something you really want or have really wanted for a good price on the table. So that's what I can at least say. So agenda for today, speaking of which, as some of you may know, hello Dynamo Terror, as some of you, any hisser is going to be there. I will actually have a pretty good selection of different hisser species. That is something that I think I'm bringing at least 4 strains or species. So if you want hissers, this is a good time to stock up, since I will have some really good price, really good age selection of hissers at the expo on Saturday. So yes, it's a good thing to want. And I have 2 more bins I have to finish. I did all my roach husbandry yesterday and today, and I have 2 bins left to do, and I still have 1 container that I haven't packed anything into. So what I'll do is I'll actually go and pick another hisser and throw it into there. So I'll have even more hissers with me. So last roach I'll pack up will be another hisser species of some sort. So Tarantula Jake says, crazy awesome update on Odd Communal. Which Odd Communal? Rain says, do you have Oblonga node available? No, I do not. They haven't been breeding very well for me for some reason. I actually just I turned their heat bulb off. Last year I had a bunch of them at this time of year, and this year they're just kind of not doing much. I'm wondering if because there's even more stuff in the basement now, so it's even warmer, if the heat bulb is a bit much for them. It's not a bit much for the other hisser species that I have for the most part. Everything else is doing fine, but sometimes it could be too much. So I just, there's no harm in me trying. So I'm just gonna just turn it off, see what happens. It's already in the high 70s down there, and yeah, we'll just see what happens. If that's a trigger for getting them to make more babies or something, we'll see. So, news, other things I was just about to say with the expo this weekend, I am going to try and make this a tight on the hour live stream since I have to. I'm doing all of my packing 2 days ahead of time. And tomorrow I've got a bunch of stuff to do. I have to go grocery shopping for the house. I have to go. I have a bunch of farm work I have to do since it warmed up and everything melted. I have to go clean out rabbit cages and move birds around and tidy some stuff up out in the yard. So we're doing that all morning. I have some other commitments in the afternoon from about 2 to 6. And then I have, what else do I have to do? To tidy up the house. I'm going to be having, I have some commitments on Saturday evening after the expo, which is all day Saturday. And that's going to be my next couple of days. I got to hit all the notes. Tarantula Jake, so my Suriname colony, I added death's heads to it. Chain says, you have a successful culture of silver zygentoma. Yes, I do, Chain. I can talk about that for a second. Let me finish reading Tarantula Jake's one here. I also added lesser mealworm beetles and found some darkling beetles in tarantula's cages and tossed them in as well. Yeah, watch how it does over time. Surinames you may end up with just Surinames and lesser mealworm beetles over time, but it all depends on a lot of things. Jose Nunez, I made it. Congratulations. Good to have you. We got a good crowd of people here right now. A comment on Chain's thing that you have a successful culture of. Actually, I'll ask really quick. How does this feel? If I look directly at the camera, does it change anything about the experience? I know a lot of people may just be watching the dead stream or just listening to it, not necessarily hear from my face. But does anybody who's here, does it do anything for anybody? Is it more engaging? I don't know. Comment in or whatever and let me know if it's better if I look at the camera. I'll try and do it more often. Otherwise, I'm inclined to sort of stare over in this general direction because it also lets me keep an eye on the chat. Yes, Chain. Yes, I have a culture going of the silverfish from Hurricane, Utah, and they're doing wonderfully. And I think there's an order pending for some of them already. They're doing quite well. Silverfish, kind of, other than fire breaths, kind of grow slowish. It might be a density thing. There's a bunch of factors involved. But yeah, they're doing very well, and I figured that something that was living under rocks, being baked in the sun, and eating plant particles and dead parts of bugs would probably do well in captivity with higher quality food and no predators. So this summer, and as always, will be an exercise in getting more of the supposedly common pest spring silverfish from all over the place. Supposedly common. Has not been that easy lately. Is there anything else I was missing here? Tennyson says, finally got Hemiblabbera rosenae. Oh, I should touch on that too. This hour is going to go by so fast. So we've had some changes to Roach taxonomy on our captive stock of stuff, as often happens nowadays, and the evidence suggests that the Hemiblabbera tenebricosa, which we had in culture for many years, are probably not. They are not tenebricosa, and they are probably Hemiblabbera rosenae, but rosenae is not reported from Cuba, which is where the stock supposedly originates from, so that sort of complicates the matter further. So I've been talking it over whether they should be called just rosenae fully because they match the female in the description. They match a lot of things in the description for rosenae, or if they should be called CF rosenae. But it seems clear they're not tenebricosa because we have actual tenebricosa now. I would like to make it a point to say that I was at the forefront of saying whatever the species was in the keys was something different, whether or not it was tenebracosa or something else. There was something special about it. It just ends up that was kind of backwards how I was right in that. Yes, it was different, but it was tenebracosa, and that's the devil in the details there. Jojo says, I like when you look in the camera person. Okay, I will try and do that more often. It is a bit kind of weird because the camera does kind of look like a singular eyeball staring at me, and I will get used to it, but it is a little bit freaky at times, staring into a singular eye like that. Tarantula Jake, the result has been strange in reference to this oddball communal enclosure. Certain Ambroses used to just be pet substrate, but now they're spending time on egg crates in the bin, and both are breeding extremely well. Let's just keep any dead from something. Also, the few darkling beetles I tossed in have done crazy well. Full-size superworms are everywhere. Never had such luck with supers before, but happy accident. Yeah, sometimes stuff does better with other things than it does alone. It's just how it is. A lot of isopods can be like that. Hello, the beetle guy. Says, hey guys, to everybody here, to our fun ragtag group. Tennyson says, I personally have them labeled as CF Rose and I at the moment. They want to get the true tenebracosa some day, though they are so pretty looking. The true tenebracosa may be available sooner than later, depending on a couple of factors. Anthony Green says, I want to feel like you are locking eyes with me. All right, that's fine. You do you. I don't know if I necessarily feel the same way. Feeling may or may not be mutual. Should at least take me out to dinner first, or at least take me out to a cool bug spot. It's a good alternative. Jane says, that is excellent news regarding the silverfish. Good luck on the pest silverfish. I'll be honest, I don't know if they or Arcade Nath are my favorite hexapods, but I'm excited to see breed and observe either. Yes, and the genus Kyle, what is it? Hold on. Leucolopisma, arenaria are still doing well, and eventually those will be available too. At some point in the next 4 months, will be doing a website update. The big overhaul is not going to happen for some time. Obviously, I keep saying that, but I do have a lot of species I need to add. I can finally round out some of the roaches I haven't put on for years that are there, that are available. I can finally get the bulk of the isopods, which I have never listed. I think maybe like 4/5 of the isopods that I have, I've never put on the website. So I need to catch up to that. No. Tennyson says, did you see that Venoni, Sei, and Ornata are now Libetoides, Sei, and Ornata? No, I did not see that. Oh, my lord. It seemed to come up for that. Where was that? What publication or something or other did that come from? Who's the brass sending that on downwards? Just out of curiosity. I guess maybe they. Okay, so they probably split. Seems like there's no synonyms for Venoni's, just going off of what's on Bug Guide. Seems they probably split the North American or the United States or whatever taxa off from a related South American taxon. That's what I would assume is going on. Just check Wikipedia. No, never mind. It says there's only 2 members of the genus in North America. So, yeah, I don't know if there's no junior synonyms. I don't know. Unless there is another specimen or something to which things were originally referred. I have no idea. Let me check TJ's post. One of these days, I will click on the new species tab and there will be dozens of new listings. Yeah, that's usually how it goes. If I have to set aside like a whole day to put stuff on, and usually I can get a good amount of stuff. Oh, I just remembered. I had something curious that I wanted to bring up that I was just thinking I was doing when I was at the dentist the other day, and I was sitting and ruminating on some things. So there's been we've discussed some bug legal stuff here previously, but there was a big one a couple of years ago regarding Goliath beetles, and there was a big hullabaloo about them being finally quote unquote legal in the US for interstate transport, blah blah blah. Not going to get into the specifics of that, but when I was in the dentist's office and waiting for my mouth to numb because anesthetics take a while on me for some reason, I started ruminating on it and thinking, there's that APHIS USDA formal deregulation thing on their website that has a list of everything from cockroaches, beetles, bacteria, fungi, etc. And I went on to that, and it is for potential plant pests and all that. But the thing was, they did not list Goliaths on there. And when I sort of went around to look for any sort of official delisting or anything like that, I couldn't find any information on it because the adults are still saprivores, as are many beetle adults in that group. And so I guess I couldn't find anything official on it from Albolineata. I couldn't find anything listed on that listing, but the thing was the Goliath beetle situation supposedly happened in 2017. The USDA APHIS list was updated in 2019. If you try to do any sort of like combined searching for USDA or APHIS Goliath beetle or Goliathus, you don't find any information. So I'm curious if maybe this is kind of a rumor thing that just sort of started going around and nobody ever thought to like get anything substantial or officiating on it. But if anybody has any more information on that, let me know. I'm just very curious. Also, Josh Suds, welcome. The reason why click beetles aren't deregulated is because many of them are crop pests, surprisingly. There's the wireworms that will chew into certain types of root crops. I don't know if it's a European species or if it's a native North American species, but I do know that they do have the potential to be plant pests. So, yeah. So if anybody has any more information on the Goliath situation, such as here's the update or notice or whatever, sort of like there's that one that was posted on private collecting of insects on forestry service lands. That one's very common. It was from 2000, somewhere between 2007 and 2011 or something like that. And it was a note from somebody high up at the forestry saying that yes, you are allowed to collect small scale, whatever, private collecting on forestry service lands, national forest lands, blah blah blah. And so that's kind of been like okay, here's the document if you go out and do that. But there does not seem to be anything about that for Goliath beetles. So if anybody has any more information on that, shoot me an email. I'm just curious about it. It does not affect what I do pretty much at all. But I'm curious. I'm very curious about things. So Libetoides, I'm curious where the lines are drawn for the new species in the genus Libetoides. Yeah, I'm curious. I always like to see the publication because also, so there's the other thing is I do not like being in my position sometimes because I have people on both sides basically screaming at me stuff in certain situations. For example, not screaming. I'm selling it up, but TJ, everybody had linked the Paraplaneta genetic thing where they found out that all these bladed relationships are all messed up, and that Shelfordella lateralis is actually a Paraplaneta, so it should be Paraplaneta lateralis, and that all these other Paraplaneta species are actually polyphyletic, so they need to be split into their own genre and their own clades or whatever. Okay, so I go on that and I talk to TJ, and TJ says, yes, use Paraplaneta lateralis. And says, oh, the guy who did the publication posted on Facebook, and you should be using Paraplaneta lateralis. Then I go and I talk with Kai and Alan, and I'm giving equal footing to both parties involved here. I go to talk to Kai and Alan, and about this issue, and they say, oh, he didn't publish it. Oh, he was just saying that it needed to be done. He was just showing the relationships. It's not official. They haven't subsumed that into that. He didn't do any of that work himself, all this other stuff. And to like go back to using Shelfordella lateralis. So I'm sitting here like, what do I do? I mean, it's going to eventually be Paraplaneta lateralis, but then Kai was getting in my case. Oh, it's actually wrong. Oh, that's incorrect. That's wrong. That's not true. It's not Paraplaneta. It's not. He never published it. So I just like, okay, like screw it. I have the information up there. I have the justification for it. It's going to happen eventually. But like, oh man, then I have to take my own side on this sort of thing. And I try to have the site at least fairly up to date on stuff like this. I haven't updated the Hemiblabra page because I'm waiting to do all the updates in one fell swoop. It's probably going to be a whole week of updating that I'm going to do. There will be no crowdsourcing for that either. I have to do it of my own accord because it's just what I have to do. But yeah, so I'm between a rock and a hard place with some of these things. It actually reminds me of a quote that I heard when I was on my first botanical foray back in 2013, where I had a mixture of authorities on the botany and the conservation, all this stuff, and a couple of the more casual botanists who had been in association with them for longer. And the joke that I was told was, yeah, we use common names because they're more reliable, they don't change as often. And that's always stuck with me because sometimes there's a point to that, It's like the whole 6-spot roach situation and all that, and now this Hemiblabra one. I don't think Oren ever watches these, but the American Cockroach Society had the common name, the official common name for the for Hemiblabra tenebricosa was the broad keys roach. And I always thought, well, people on the forum earlier on were using horseshoe crab roach a lot more. That seemed like a more applicable common name. And so that's the one that I used for roach crossing. Well, now we see that the stock that we thought was tenebricosa is not tenebricosa, and thus that common name applies to different stock. Therefore, horseshoe crab cockroach is technically more correct now to refer to the Cuban species stock. So Martin has Paraplaneta quadrinotata. I need to Martin, I think it's on your website. I don't spend too much time online except for doing emails and updating the website, but maybe if I look up Paraplaneta quadrinotata, oh, this looks like a post from you on Reddit, perhaps. Oh, that's beautiful. What a beautiful cockroach. It reminds me of the markings that are seen on the Paraplaneta americana black and venom nymphs. They kind of have sort of like the precursors to these larger markings on their bodies. Obviously it's not as intense, but maybe it could be bred for. I mean, there's obviously a bunch of convergent features in between different species of cockroaches, so maybe that could be bred for in Paraplaneta americana. So Elsie, also, is it okay if you tell me where you got your Philippine blue millipede? I think that might be directed to Braden. Jake McKenzie says, hello, hey Kyle. Hello, hey Jake, good to see you. Some Egg says, Kyle, my Darapeltis pollinoi have about doubled in size since October. That's great. Some of you may remember last year I was bemoaning my issues with different bladdids, and I was thinking, well, back in all this other stuff. And now, as I put in the updated cockroach care guide, some of it was just the lingering effects of poor husbandry over the summer and dryness with some of these things. I do use my very high ventilated setups. Although, strangely enough, I have Derapeltis in a high ventilation setup up here, and they're doing completely fine. And the ones downstairs are in a less ventilated setup, and they're doing fine. So I don't know. I don't know sometimes. I think maybe mine just got stressed over the summer, and then they just there's a period of time where I didn't feed them as much, and they just sort of snowballed into a cataclysm that I couldn't pull them out of. So kind of remind me of Sundablata sex punctata, Tennyson says, with regard to the Paraplaneta quadrinotata. Very beautiful cockroaches. Are there other bladdids I'm having success with right now? I can't really remember. Jake McKenzie says, I sent you the email about the doobie. I appreciate the other email answers you've given. Oh, yes, and if everybody has pending emails, I've been in the habit of doing emails every morning nowadays. I have like my morning caffeine of some sort, and I sit down and I do emails, and I feel like it works really well. The only thing is, like, there's nothing bad about it. It's just, it's beneficial for everybody. I'm no longer stressed about like, oh, I got to do all the emails. I have to go and do a big chunk of emails. I'll just do it in the morning. And people, I don't think it's unreasonable to expect somebody to reply once a day. And I do have a billion other things I have to do. So that's just how it is. And it's been working out great. So I'm sorry if I haven't replied to it within the last 12 hours, but there should be a response tomorrow at some time eventually. Something says I just mean the nymphs have doubled in size on population. Yeah, mine have been getting really big too. I was just some eggs you reminded me that last year my Derapeltis were in shambles, and this year they're doing phenomenally, and I'm very happy about that. I've had quite a few successes. A couple of things, a handful of things have stuck out for failures. The Euthlastoblata species Ocala are, yes, the Ergala situation. It's good to have somebody with boots on the ground in Asia to bring some of these updates, because a lot of that information was never readily available in the West back in 2006 and whatnot. As I understood it, we just basically got things that were already labeled, and nobody sort of sat and was like, "Is this what it is?" It was even that way with Parkablata, and don't even try to think that anybody figured out anything about Aranavega other than maybe Boliana. We didn't get the Tonkawa ID until much later. But yeah. Yes, and Dynamotera, Pycnoscalis, Tenebrigera. I think Alan was saying it might Rufa-Peas or something like that. I think I actually looked at the publication that Alan was referring to, and I kind of saw that, or I read the description. It was like, yeah, this sounds more like this and less like that. But as time goes on, I'm kind of backing up from being like, oh yes, that is this species. Oh yes, that is this. I'm definitely more in the camp of looking at something or raising something and observing its the life history and life cycle and saying, this is different than this other thing pretty substantially. I don't know how to put my finger on it, but I won't make the bold claim that this is a significant and substantial difference per se, but these two things are very clearly different to me. For example, the Parkablata pennsylvanica from Michigan versus the ones in Alabama, there's a size difference. There's no diapause necessary for the Alabama ones. I tried pairing Alabama males with a virgin Michigan female, and they did not produce any fertile ooths. And so I look at that and I go, this is kind of suspicious whether or not these are the same species based on a lot of these factors. So, and I do have to do a roach room tour. I keep putting it off primarily because I've been so busy, and now I guess I have the aquarium rack finished, so there is that. But going through CSF pilosa photos, you can see they're very different from the hobby stock. Yeah, the U.S. stuff comes from Jorg Bernhardt circa maybe 2011 or 2012, way back when. I have no idea where our cappuccino come from either. So mentioned roach gut bacteria. What promotes bladder-bacteriaceae growth exactly? I'm not a professional on that, but they live within the specialized fat bodies that are adjacent to the digestive system in the roaches that have them, those being everything but, I think the termites don't have them. I don't know if Cryptocarchus have them either, and Nocticola don't have them, but the other roaches all do. But they just a long-term commensal relationship that they have with these bacteria that allow them to recycle nitrogen. The compounds of the bacteria are able to store things as and then break apart later, and the roaches are able to utilize them. I'd have to look into the exact processes involved, but basically some of the theories that I have with this is that you can do things with your husbandry that can critically injure or sever that sort of relationship, and perhaps with other bacteria that the roaches may be involved with that can cause them to snowball into a poor state and not be able to rebound from it for whatever reasons. Tennyson says, impatiently waiting for spring to come around so I can finally catch some stuff near me. I need to give a shot again, mainly Harpalus and Sierra species. I do also have relationships with bacteria, says Jose Nunez. Zen Monkey, so don't feed your roaches antibiotics. Yes, but I can't remember if bladder-bacteria are gram-negative or gram-positive bacteria. There's a lot of something with the cell wall in gram-negative bacteria that makes antibiotics less effective on them in general. But anyway, so yeah, we got Hemiblabra updates. We got the Sergola stuff going on. I'm glad that TJ and all those involved with him. Martin, I'm assuming that you're involved with that too. I'm glad that you guys are sort of piecing through things and figuring out if stuff's been mislabeled and all of this other stuff. The big problem now with this Hemiblabra thing, and this is where I feel like I have some sort of responsibility to maneuver through the situation, is now we have to make the distinction between these two stocks. There has to be a reasonable way to make a distinction between these two stocks. We don't know if they can hybridize. They're very morphologically similar. I wouldn't be surprised if they could, but one of these stocks is of conservation concern. Basically, the actual Hemiblabra tenebricosa should really be preserved in captivity in some capacity on a large scale, and thus here we get into the point of the identification being necessary and potentially giving them a different different common name too, because if we call them, they probably should not be called horseshoe crab roaches. They probably should not be called broad keys roaches, because that's another name that the Cuban stock was being called for almost 2 decades now. So then it's like, what do we have to call them something else? Like there have to be multiple safety nets here, because they will get out into the mainstream culture. And I know it's always, then it's somebody else's responsibility. But for me personally, in the amount of stuff that I sell, I feel an obligation to sort of put some safety nets up that bad things do not happen to this stock. So, maroon crab roaches. What does tenebricose translate into? Darkness or gloom? A tenebri, darkness or gloom, or gloomy? You know, with their color scheme, that kind of works. Call them gloomy roaches. Gloomy something roaches. Maroon 5 crab roaches. So I don't know, but shouldn't be called Latin names, since they don't have to be Latin. They can be Latin or Greek or any. Vernacular Latin. Pony shoe crab roach. Gloomy macaroon roaches. Gloomy macaroon. Gloomy macaroon. That's a lot of ooh sounds. But so far, in my experience, the actual tenebracosa have been very easy to rear too. They're more colorful than the Cuban stock is, but they are smaller. But they'll be a thing. People will like them. They'll be around. We just have to make sure. I should probably do some. Should take some female CF Rose and I and try to cross them with a male tenebracosa and see what happens. And then if anything happens, into the freezer it all goes. But I had other things I needed to talk about. And again, I'm going to try and stick to the that I wanted to talk about. I was going to try and stick to the hour time limit because another thing, have had a mantid wholesale group come in, and those will be going up. I'm going to really try and get them up on the website by the end of the night, but I gotta get my stuff for the expo packed. I have to. What else do I have to do? I should probably I got to clean rodents tomorrow. I forgot about that. It's something I usually prep the day before a bit too. I'm getting stressed just thinking about it. I got to put these mantids away. Also, I just got them today. So big mantid update coming to the site. If anybody out there wants Idolomantis, they are in. They are healthy. They're going to be getting exceptional care very soon. And this is your opportunity. Maybe only every 2 to 3 years do I see Idolomantis available. And that's why I got them, is because I knew people would want to work with them because of this, because of how infrequently they're available. So there's a couple of other cool mantids that are going to be available as well too. But I'm letting everybody on the stream know right now that if you want Idolomantis, now is the time to contact me and get in on that, because 10 of them were already spoken for before I even opened my mouth about them, basically. Exotic Wilderness. Let me read this comment, then I'll go off on my spiel, because I have to bring everybody up to speed on how Fish Week went, or Fish Saturday Fish Day went. Exotic Wilderness says, "Hey Kyle, have you ever tried keeping any roaches in a Zilla microhabitat? I've been using one for Elliptorina javanica, and they seem to love the setup." I've seen those for sale at a couple of mainstream pet stores, and I look at it and I'm like, yeah, this looks like it'd be pretty cool. And I don't know if it's the exact one that you're using, but some of them I look at also and I go, how this isn't escape proof for stuff, if you put maybe a full size bumblebee millipede in this, it won't be able to get out, but babies will, or springtails will, or all this other stuff that inadvertently or intentionally would be kept with millipedes is going to get out of this. Or some of them do not seem to have been designed by somebody who's actually kept or bred the stuff that's. And I know some people just keep one millipede or one of this or one of that, but still I like the flexibility, because for the most part, millipedes do not live forever, and an individual millipede will not live forever. Maybe a Narcissus gordanus will live forever, but an individual beetle will not live forever. So for me, it's well, if I got this for a pet, I'd be using it for something else down the line, and who knows if I'm going to still want to have a beetle, or maybe I want a roach, or maybe I want a millipede, or maybe I want a cricket or something. And you've got to make sure that the enclosures can be suitable for every iteration of whatever you have. So they have not been appealing to me for that reason. Is there are some design things to try to keep Callistes wasps. I used to raise them, epic creatures. My green hydra live forever. Yeah, I suppose that is true if you're raising hydra. Speaking of which, I got a sample of gravel from the local fish store a couple of weeks ago, because it had some amphipods and all kinds of fun stuff in it. It's where my midges that I wrote that lovely blog post on Roach Crossing about came from. All kinds of stuff in the gravel from the local fish store, from their plant tanks. And we found out, I think it was on Fish Day, when we went downstairs to look at the fish rack and just look at all other things since Alan was visiting. that there were brown hydras in there, and I had not seen a hydra in any sort of setup or anywhere since like 2018 or 2019 when they popped up in the one display tank at U of M when I was running the bug zoo thing there. And so this is my first time in a long time seeing a hydra, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. I like this. After a friend who went to fish day with us was asking, hey, are they like freshwater versions of like anemones and stuff like that? I was like, yeah, hydras, but they're like 1/1000th the size. So anyways, fish day. Fish day was phenomenal. We went to this one place in Ann Arbor, Fish Doctors, pretty good store. I found a good amount of things in there this year that I wanted. They're a little bit heavier on the saltwater. I think they have more space for freshwater stuff, but it feels like there's more saltwater stuff. And it was great at some point, like because we had like maybe like eight-ish people in there in like our group, and we were all talking to each other and stuff. And we kept getting asked by the staff, like, are you guys with like a biology sorority or the fraternity sorority, biology fraternity, or are you guys like forestry majors or something like that? And this is, it's, oh yes, it's flatter us with these statements. And so from there, I bought some miscellaneous plants. I got they had one of my targets for fish day. Some Celebes half-beaks. I like me some live bearers. They had a group with one male and 3 female Celebes half-beaks. So I snatched those up. They're eating bugs currently. And what else did I get them? They got a bunch of Neocardinia. I can't find the exact taxonomy. And this is CF cantonensis or whatever. And it's one of the Neocardinia species. And they had a couple of good proven out color varieties there, yellow and orange, so I got those. Then we went to an Asian grocery store where I got some more beetle jellies. We went looking for weird fish and stuff that they may import live. Kai bought some blue crabs and was betting Alan that they would live for like more than 10 days in his like salt watered bath setup thing. Spoiler alert, Alan won that bet. Kai, I don't know what you owe Alan, but you owe Alan for that now. Then where did we go? We said goodbye to a couple of our group members, and we went to Oceans and Seas and ran into somebody I've been seeing at the Reptile Expo for a long time and just now internalizing his name. And I will probably see him at the Expo this weekend. I don't know if he watches the stream, but if you do, it was nice seeing you at Oceans and Seas, Nate. I hope to see you at the Expo this weekend. But just completely unrelated. He was just there, I think, with his dad, and he just was going there to, have his own fish day, as people often do when you're into fish. So we went there, and what did I get? They had a tiger crayfish, which I did not buy there. Alan and Kai were trying to get me to buy it. It was just one male, supposedly, and so I didn't get it. I got pretty cool endlers, live bearer, some guppy grass, and some other stuff. I'm trying to feel like I bought something else there. I can't really remember. It must not have been important. Next spot was Royal Fish and Bird in Royal Oak, Michigan. Very, very clean, very aesthetic, very traditional fish store, beautiful wood cabinets, wonderful staff who were answering all kinds of questions from all the people who were around there. Just a very phenomenal, very, very outstanding place. Water Sprite in every tank, but there wasn't, there was some good stuff, but the real good stuff was in the quote unquote pond room, back and around the corner, where they had also gotten in tiger crayfish. One of them was in berry. They had 2 other ones. The price was actually very affordable, and so we bought all of the tiger crayfish that they had. So I got the female and berry and a male. Kai got the female. Alan was there to sex everything. It was great. I bought some big clawed frogs they had. I haven't seen Xenopus laevis for sale in places in years. Supposedly somebody brought in there, they bought them as little tiny niblet frogs and brought them in when they got huge. So they're both males. It's YMCA in their enclosure currently, but one's an albino reticulated, which I have not seen in a very long time. And I think I'm going to start working with more Xenopus again. I used to be really into them. I bred them in tap water at my parents' house. It's something I would hate to see disappear from propagation. They've really fallen out of fashion lately with axolotls. But let me go on a little rant. Clawed frogs, and the testament to this is the fact that they've become an invasive species in California, but that might probably be a finger you can point at the biomedical industry and not at private keepers. Anyways, Xenopus are incredible, awesome frogs, so easy to keep, easy to breed with a little bit of lead time preparation. People look at the gigantic female adult size of Levis as if it's a bad thing, but people are always buying reticulated pythons and Burmese and all this other stuff because they get huge. A super frog that can live in poop water is supersized frog that lives in poop water and will nibble your fingers is so much more exhilarating than a plopped out reticulated python that's been fed too much its whole life and is going to die of a heart attack in a couple of years. So, and compared to axolotls, their husbandry needs are pretty much the same. Like they have a commercial pellet diet for Xenopus, and people are already know don't keep axolotls with fish. It's bad for both parties. I just don't see how that never translated to Xenopus. Like, just don't keep them with other fish. Just treat them like an axolotl. They will do so fine if you keep them like an axolotl. Basically, the only thing I guess I could see there is a Xenopus can jump out of the enclosure, but I've never kept axolotls in a non-Xenopus-esque enclosure, so I can't say if they're inclined to jump out ever too. But anyways, so I love Xenopus. They're great. So I bought those. I bought some black shrimp as well. They had a mixed bin of them, so I was just like, I might as well. This is a color I don't see usually, so I got a couple of those too. Where else did we go to next? By then it was getting late. We hauled butt all the way back to Livonia, and we went to the store that's by my house, Pet Connection, which is definitely perhaps one of my all-time favorite fish stores. There's one that's also kind of close to me. I don't want to speak badly of them because it is a good store, but I feel like they've kind of lost a bit of their thunder over the last decade. One of the old owners, I mean, both the owners were very talented people, very passionate people about fish. One of them went off to work for a fish farm or something like that in Florida. He received some opportunity he couldn't refuse, and I think that kind of took some of the thunder, some of the buzz out of the business. Again, no offense to the person who is still there and the people who are assisting him, but I feel like it was kind of different ever since that. So. But I can't beat this Pet Connection place. It's right by my house. Beautiful saltwater section. It's a small saltwater section. It's one aisle. But every time I go, healthy fish, beautiful corals, constantly making me want to keep a saltwater tank. Obviously very knowledgeable. They go above and beyond. They label when stuff like the saltwater fish have come in, so that you're getting something that's been in captivity for a bit, or maybe you wanted it fresh out of the wild. I don't know, but that just seems very above and beyond to me. And the freshwater selection is very reminiscent to what I recall fish stores being like when I was a wee lad in the early 2000s, basically, where you get all kinds of, you have your mainstays, and then you get all kinds of weird wild stuff in, and it's a good diversity of opportunities. Versus now, some of the places, oh my gosh, they're shifting over to all glowfish. It's like we couldn't appreciate natural beauty. We couldn't even just have the zebra danios. You couldn't even just have the zebra danios. Somebody's like, let's do it to everything now. Let's do it to tetras. Let's do it to the redfin sharks. Let's do it to everything. Let's make it all obnoxious and horrific looking. Where's the subtlety? I mean, obviously it sells. That's why. Unless you're getting big subsidies or something for that, I don't know. But where's the natural beauty? Where's the nice rich pigmented colors you see on things? That really nice deep, very rich, very saturated stuff you don't see on these screaming abominations is just something else. But anyway, so we finished up there. I got more supplies. I set up finished the last shelf of the aquarium rack. That's all got tank cycling now, except for one, which is going to be my just sort of like aquatic invertebrates generalized culture thing in case I need to seed other things or throw something in there to get it to breed. So, but that was fish day. It was wonderful. Oh, we went to another Asian grocery market too, where Alan got some swamp eels to eat, and Kai bought a lobster, which did not live a long time and is probably what they had for dinner at some point. But anyway, so that's fish day. Let me catch up on the comments here. Tennyson says, have you noticed Pseudophilus chiricahua being territorial? TJ mentioned his has been. I've been finding adult males with missing limbs and nipped antennae. I haven't noticed it, but there's like a couple hundred in the enclosure, and I don't often look. I do not often sit there and stare at them for hours. But I did not see any antagonistic behavior when I was looking at them when they were out the other night. Might be a diet thing too. Astacopsis gouldi. Let's see what that is. That might be in reference to one of the fish that I bought. No, not those big boys. That would be pretty cool though. But it's a Cherax species. Fun fact: Cherax destructor, one of the yabby species, is one of a few oddball things that are outright illegal to possess in Michigan. It's very bizarre that was on the illegal to possess list before even marmorcrebs were the marmorated crayfish, which were added within the last 5 years. It's too late. They're introduced in Michigan somewhere. Same with the red swamp crayfish. Yep, they're introduced. They're all over the place now, but they're legal to possess and own and whatever now. So too much, too late. There should have been more proactive, state of Michigan. Anyways, but yes, for some reason, of all the crayfish species, Cherax destructor was on the list before any of these other things that were more suspicious, and I have no idea why. So it's interesting that they're allowing this other Cherax species in. LC, I got a medium lobster roach colony. Any tips? Keep them warm, keep them dry, and feed them lots. Zen Monkey, yes, there you go. Thank you for that. Necturus maculosus. I'm just going to look up what that is. Newt. Common mud puppies. Oh, yeah. Those are protected in Michigan, too. Michigan has had a couple of questionable listings of things in the last 5 or so years without any action to sort of back things up, like creating critical habitat and stuff like that. For example, the Butler's garter snake was listed. In my personal experience with the species, it prefers very early successional habitats, maybe one of the few things that benefits from regular mowing in certain places. They like when the vegetation is just about ankle high. They love it so much. It's perfect cover for them to come out and bask. It's probably very easy for them to find worms and whatnot in that sort of habitat. But a lot of the places where I found them when I was younger have been allowed to overgrow. They planted trees. They've done all this stuff without sort of any regard for the special needs of this now protected species in Michigan. So somebody says there's a fish store in my neighborhood that was open from 2018 to 2021. Yeah, we're a bit spoiled here. Southeast Michigan seems to have a rich history of fish keeping places. There's a place we didn't go to called Cichlid World that has been open for a very long time. I've talked about it before and how there's a tank at that store that, as of the last time I visited, was still empty. If it's still empty, if I go there again, it will have been empty for like 18 years or something crazy like that. It's a very hole-in-the-wall place. It's a very fascinating place to go to, too. Exotic Wilderness says, Kyle, something I would really love to see is an Instagram account. Oh, boy, I know you're really busy. Wish you weren't as busy as you had time to post on an Instagram account. I think when I move and the facility is built and I get all these other things taken care of and settle into a routine, it will be easier to maintain some sort of social media presence of that sort. I can probably outsource it to somebody else as well to manage. at the time, this is my social media, and really, I have my hands full enough as it is currently. So, but I have aspirations. You may notice that I added a video to YouTube. I can't remember if that was yesterday or today, but there is a you can watch it in the highest possible resolutions, like 2010, 2080, 4K, 5 billion, fondle your eye sockets quality. I uploaded it of my Tomasaurus colony, and I watered it. I was trying to get out some Entomobria unostrigata that got in there, and I saw how many hundreds there are, and I thought this would make a pretty good YouTube video. So I took a video of it, and there it is. Chain says it's meaningless. Color in nature is utilitarian, has a purpose which enriches its beauty. Yes, Chain, I second that sentiment, and I extend that to domestic animals to a certain point. I'll just touch on that very briefly. In that, if I look at Victor, who is a landrace Gomper, he might start whining at the door now that I said his name. The dogs in the wild of Armenia have all kinds of different colors and patterns and splotches and all this stuff. And if you look at a lot of domesticated animals, one of those traits, and they found this out with those Siberian silver fox domestication experiments, but piebalding is a pretty good indication of something being at least partly domesticated. There's some metabolic pathways for aggression and stuff that goes along with that piebalding. And so you can look at piebalded animals and say, oh, it's like a man-made creation, but it's a weird, it's the weird intersection of man-made and wild, where it's like there's natural selection going on here. In some of these cases, it wasn't all us. We may select on top of that for some things like that, but there's still something going on there. It's not a coincidence that a lot of domesticated animals have piebalding of some sort, especially domesticated mammals. Welcome to Fish Crossing, says Beetle Guy. Yes, welcome to Fish Crossing. I may put some fish up on the site eventually. I need to learn how to ship them more effectively, but I have my Amica, which I have fallen in love with. Just beautiful little tiny largemouth bass that eat plants. What a great fish. And extinct in the wild too, supposedly. And since I have been keeping my Masola histers with the Hanstromi, and they're both doing super well together, the Hanstromi just start to attach, and the Masola are growing great. I've been keeping Hanstromi with my Princessia from Andromana, and they've been doing very well. Still no Andromana babies. I have some discussion about that I need to do with TJ. Beetle Guy says, I saw the video, so exciting. Elsie says, the glow spot roaches I got at the Roach Crossing auction are doing very good. I even got names. Wonderful. Yeah, it's always good to hear updates on that. Speaking of that, one of the XX Johnston X, the Fusca came in safe. Wonderful. Good news. I needed that. I've had a handful of things. There's a box that went to North Carolina that was an express box and was derailed for like a week. And I had some sensitive things like some Hemithorsostra vittata, and there were some heavy losses on everything. And that kind of had me bummed out. So it's good to hear that a lot of the stuff that went out this week, it got in just fine. Beetle Guy says, do you have any big friendly rivals to your website, like major dealers that compete with for business? I have no idea, because if you start getting mired in, oh, this person's doing that, oh, this other person's doing that, oh, I should be doing that, and sort of getting very paranoid about watching other people around you, you lose track of like this. The way you do this is to not think about that. You keep your head to the grindstone and keep doing what you need to do. Otherwise, you kind of go a little crazy. There have been points in time early on in Roach Crossing where I was, eyeballing other people who were doing similar to me. And it's very easy to get lost in that and sort of obsess with that and lose sight of what you should actually be doing, which is actually doing things. Zen Monkey, 21 people in chat. Oh, we dropped back down to 17, but thank you for all the concurrent viewers, everybody. I really appreciate it. It's a shame. Next week we're gonna have to settle into. Next week we'll have a nice settling in live stream, because I'll have gotten past a lot of these things. I just saw the likes go up. Thank you, Zen Monkey, for promoting that. Next week we'll have a nice settled in live stream where I can dive more into stuff without freaking out about a time limit. But for the people who may be there this weekend at the Michigan Reptile Expo, Taylortown Trade Center in Taylor, Michigan. I will be there on Saturday. Again, I will not be rolling out the red carpet, but I will have a very diverse selection, usually always at least 50 species of stuff with me, which to me doesn't feel like a lot, but it is a lot, I suppose. So in exotic wilderness, that reminds me, I do have to go and pack up those other hissers, so I'll keep that in mind. Real quick, do you have a preference for, is there species you're looking for in particular? Because I can stack the deck. If I haven't already packed it and I have a good number available, I will pack a group to have. So let me know what species or strain of history you're particularly looking for. XX Johnston, what's your favorite Porcelio? Oh, that would be Scaber, hands down. I love them. I love them guys. Getting up to having quite a few lines of those. They will probably end up being the most breed rich of all the isopod species kept. Oh, wide horn hissers. I will not have wide horns. That's the one that I'm low on at the moment, other than the Princessia. That may change if this current stock of Princessia from TJ ends up being pure as it seems to be. Then Princessia van Riebecky, the old big black whatever strain they used to be called, will be back on the table very soon. But I'm not confident. What hissers will you have there? You'll just have to come and see. But there will be a good diversity of them. There will be a good diversity. I think I'm bringing at least 5 species and maybe a couple strains of different ones. If you could have a pet roach the size of a dog, what species would? Oh, that'd be a Gronphodorina for sure, I think. Or Eurycotus. Man, a big old Eurycotus, that'd be something. That'd be something. You could probably, or a Perplanito, one of the smarter roaches, you could probably train them. You could probably teach it to do things. Probably at that size, as long as they had you scale up the neurons just a little bit, they'd probably be teachable. They already can learn, but you might be able to teach them, Perplanito the size of not only could you ride it, you could probably fly on a Perplanito the size of Victor, the Gumper with 6 legs. German roast, everyone can have one whether they want it or not. I mean, if you ate the German Roach egg cases, it's basically be like a weird supersized chicken. You just pop it off the abdomen and have a fresh egg every day or every couple of weeks or something. It'd be kind of interesting. We're moving to some weird speculative area here. But anyways, we are at the hour mark, and again, 22 concurrent viewers. I gotta at least do a couple more minutes. Somebody ask a couple more questions. I gotta while everybody's here, I gotta entertain something a bit more. How about any extinct group of arthropod as a pet? What would you choose? Macarids or whatever that family is are pretty cool. I'd like a big gyna, says some eggs. A big old gyna. A cappuccino doing phenomenal. The gyna curse for me is at any given time, one species or strain is always struggling historically. And in the last 4 years or last 3 years, that's been the yellows for me, has just been struggling. I have Cappuccino, Bisanulata, CF Sculpturata, Lyrida, Caphorum, and Centurio coming out my ears at the moment. And the Lyrida yellow I lost my original strain, and the current stuff is just barely puttering along that I received, I think, over the summer. So how many hisser species do you currently have? I think 10. We're gonna go by some very narrow species definitions here. Princessia, or maybe we'll go by very general, because some of these may not be valid, and some of them may not be actual different species. Yeah, I think 10. I can't put my brain into gear to think about things at the moment. But I think about 10 and maybe about 15 different strains of stuff, some of which I've been working on. Fox on maximum safe substrate depth for rhinos. I don't think I've ever done more than 2 inches. I don't think so. Usually less than that. The mantra was that the enclosure you make for them needs to be the burrow. They have to feel as if there's something over their head, and they're not as inclined to make an actual burrow because they can't actually form an actual burrow in captivity very well. Tesson says, do you think that Libetoides are big enough to eat Centrobolus species babies? Probably. Exact Wilderness says, "Oh, and Kyle, since you asked what hissers, I was looking for any flat horned hissers would be nice to buy. I think those are in the packing already. So to keep those will be there. They should be there. um, if you have any pet invert live as long as you, what would it be? Oh, that's an interesting question. It's dangerous. Obviously, some sort of cockroach. I'll go back to the supersized thing again. Uricotis or Gromphidorina or Leptorhina feels like would be a good thing. But man, that would be a long-lived insect. I mean, some termite queens can live a long time. Same with ant queens, but yeah, and then there's those beetles that can take like a couple decades to mature. It's kind of crazy to think about that that's adaptively suitable for them. Anything someone should know about the Fusca having only had experience with dubia before? Give them substrate. You should give dubia substrate too. At the Beal guy and land Arthroplurans all the way beyond the wire. Adora Opabinia. Or what was the thing? They found it wasn't an invertebrate. It was a basal chordate. It was the Tully monstrum. Reminds me a lot of this Opabinia. Man, that Cambrian stuff, Carboniferous stuff was nuts. We could have really had a screwy timeline if certain things didn't happen. So, anyways, I'm off to go finish up stuff, finish up packing for the expo, finish up putting away the mantids that I received today, which will be going up on Roach Crossing hopefully late tonight. Any chance there will be another Roach Crossing auction? That was so much fun. Yes, there will be an auction in early April. More information about that will be posted on the website, and it will be discussed on here very soon. I am trying to survive February because I have a full calendar schedule, and I have a lot of things I need to do. But basically, yes, there will be another auction in April. It will not be as large as the fall auction, but will still be sizable, and we'll have some stuff for my upcoming Alabama trip as well. I can't wait to see you Saturday. Will be good to see you too, Exotic Wilderness. Thank you to everybody else. Jojo Macro, Tennyson, Exotic Wilderness, LC, Zen Monkey, Beetle Guy. I'm going off of everybody who's currently Braden, etc. We'll have a nice chill week next week. I'll figure out. I'll show some bug, talk about some projects and stuff. There will be a lot more going. Dreams, tiny critters. Hey, bye. So Martin, etc. Anyways, I will see you all next week. Until then and beyond then, may your cultures ever be bountiful.